Welcome to the Film Board, the movie conversation podcast reviewing the latest releases that you've seen and want to talk about. I am your host, Ocean, and on this episode, we are talking about Top Gun Maverick.
What do we have here? God, here I thought we were special.
Fellas, this here's Bagman.
Hangman.
Whatever.
What the hell kind of mission is this?
Everyone here is the best there is. Who the hell are they going to get to teach us?
Captain Pete Maverick Mitchell. Let me be perfectly blunt. You are not my first choice. You are here at the request of Admiral Kazansky, a.k.a. Iceman. He seems to think that you have something left to offer the Navy. What that is, I can't imagine.
With all due respect, sir, I'm not a teacher. Just want to manage expectations.
What the hell? Good morning, aviators. This is your captain speaking.
And we're off.
Here we go. In 3, 2, 1.
We're going into combat on a level no living pilot's ever seen. Not even him.
You think up there you're dead. Believe me.
My dad believed in you. I'm not gonna make the same mistake.
Someone's not coming back from this.
Those are your pilots. Anything happens to them.
Smoke in the air! Smoke in the air!
You will never forgive yourself.
No turning back now.
Come on!
Jeez!
Having any fun yet?
Today, I am joined by two phenomenal podcast voices with opinions that you will never want to miss, and will delight you with their dissection of this movie. The first of which is Krissy Lenz.
Permission to buzz the tower, Ocean.
Sorry, Ghost Rider, the pattern is full. And joining Krissy and I today is Mr. Pete Wright.
Okay, who am I?
Mouser?
I'm Iceman.
Oh.
Oh, wow.
Is that right? Was it too much? Did I actually buzz the tower?
Soon, yeah.
Too soon.
Okay.
Too soon.
I regret all of that.
Okay. All right. So.
I do want it known that I was just called Mouser.
I don't know. Maybe that was the guy I didn't know about.
No, but yeah.
There was Rooster and Gooster and Bob.
Bob, the best call sign, Bob. Mm-hmm. So, welcome both of you, and we'll just start with setting the bar. So, without diving into the movie at all, so Krissy, I'll start with you. Please tell me what you already knew about Top Gun Maverick, which I assume is everything. And if that's all what it is, then just skip that and tell me what expectations you had going into it.
Well, my expectations were weird. I definitely loved the first movie when I was a kid and practically memorized it, and then watched it again as an adult and could not have hated it more. So I had very mixed feelings about Top Gun Maverick. As you know, I was not at all convinced it even really was truly a movie. So I went into it with the expectations of being really excited for whenever something I loved from the 80s gets any kind of it's not even a reboot, a sequel a million years later. So I would say my expectations were mixed but high.
All right. Pete, what were your expectations going in?
Giddy. I think is the word. They were giddy, mostly because of the crazy stories of the production that I had read up on. I was largely spoiled on the story, and so I didn't go in with any high expectations that this was going to end up as high cinema, but the production of the thing was something to really enjoy. And so that was really what the bar was. This was going to be Tom Cruise at his Tom Cruisiest, and so I feel like what was written on the tin is what I expected, and we shall see if that's what I got.
Yes, I went in. I will instead of stealing your word, I went in ecstatic. Okay, and I was really hyped up for this. That I did not plan to be, but as it got closer, I think as it got delayed more and more, and then I saw more and more about it. Also with the making of it, what they did, and then just it started bringing back the 10-year-old nostalgia for the Cold War movie that I had going on. So,
movie. That's the important part.
Yes, nostalgia for the Cold War movie, not nostalgia for the Cold War again. So that would be that's two very different things. For those of you that have missed every trailer and want to know what this is about, 30 plus years after the original Top Gun, Captain Pete Maverick Mitchell is a test pilot in California for a program that is about to be shut down by Admiral Chester Kane. And just before the Admiral shuts down the program and arrives, Maverick gets a call, and he is being called back to Top Gun. And unbeknownst to both Maverick and the Admiral, he is being sent there not to fly a mission, but to teach younger, more recent graduates of Top Gun how to accomplish and survive the unknown, incredibly dangerous mission. Mm-hmm. Pete, tell me, what was going through your mind and how giddy were you with that opening montage?
Oh, controversial.
Controversial.
I regret that you opened with me on that.
Oh, really? You didn't?
Yeah. The more I think about it, the more I hate it. Like, I wanted this movie to just be its own movie and not be a glorified remake of the first one. And opening with the same jet porn on the same boat, but this time with zero connection to where the movie actually starts, I thought was ridiculous. I didn't need Danger Zone. I didn't need any of the other music cues. I needed to open in the hangar with him eating his eggs and open in the magazine. That's where the movie starts, and everything else before that was gratuitous nostalgia porn. And I didn't care for it at all.
Well, I find that I guess I am diametrically opposed. It was the porn that I wanted to see. I was like, hearing that Kenny Loggins coming in with the Danger Zone drum beat coming in, and they're all just, pointing at planes, flying places and stuff and everything. It's right. Just pointing directions. I don't know what's going on. I don't care what's going on. There's a guy on the floor, like in a little bubble thing with the planes zooming by him and everything. And the planes are shooting up and the guys are high-fiving because they got a plane to take off from the carrier like they've been able to do for the past 50 years. I don't care. I loved it. I thought it was great. Krissy, break this tie.
I forgot about it. I thought it did just start with him in his eggs.
Oh, my heart is broken.
Like, opening montage, I was like, the what?
You mean the pee break?
I mean, they begin with the same opening crawl as the first movie, and then it's straight into the Danger Zone.
Yeah.
I guess I was so in my head about the Tom Cruise personal greeting at the beginning.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
Theater, yeah.
I was like, whoa, does he get to talk to me? Does he get to just talk to me before the movie? Yeah. I was so frozen in that headspace that I just was like, I'll have a quiet moment with him in his airplane hangar. I was thinking, how dusty must all of that get?
Yeah.
He has open books. They're going to get all blown around.
And for anyone who's listening to this later, if you saw this movie in the theater, the thing that we referenced before is that, yes, there's a personal message from Tom Cruise to the audience, thanking everybody for seeing this in the theater. So if you're listening to this 6 months from now and you just saw it on Netflix, then I doubt you got the same message.
Oh, you don't think he'll make a new one that's like,
A new one,
hello,
thank you.
welcome to Netflix.
Exactly. With that
Hello, idiot. Why didn't you go see my movie on IMAX? That's what it's going to be.
Okay. All right. So since since both of you want to start at the beginning of him coming in the Maverick, so the first scene of the movie,
He comes out of his Airstream.
he comes out of his Airstream trailer. That's right. And apparently he has been living in. I mean, it's a big, huge hangar.
Yeah.
But that apparently is where he's living, is in a big giant hangar. And so he is a test pilot. And the test pilot, again, is the program is going to be shut down if they can't get a plane to go to Mach 10. Why they need the plane to go to Mach 10 or anything else about the plane is unknown and undiscussed. And really, does it matter? No.
Because it's top secret. It's top
Exactly.
secret.
It's top
They
secret.
can't tell you that in the movie.
Exactly.
Because of the secrets.
It's going to be shut down by the aforementioned Admiral Kane,
Ed Harris.
played by Ed Harris, which is great casting for Ed Harris on it. And so he's going to shut the program down. He's going to come down, do it in person. He's not there yet. So Maverick, being Mavericky, said, "Hey, let's take the test plane out now before he shuts us down to prove that we can do Mach 10, even though that day's trial test was for Mach 9." And so in this, and I guess since this is really the start and the impetus of the movie, so he's really kind of showing that he's trying to. I think they're somewhat humanizing Maverick, because then he's like, well, even though he'd have great punishment for him doing it, he knows what'll happen if he doesn't, because they're going to shut the whole program down, and then they go off in the scene. And so I view this scene kind of as a part of, you're trying to establish that he's grown a little bit as a person, where he cares about other people, but also just, a cool scene of a plane going fast.
Yeah, and then also he doesn't care about them that much, because then he's like, he gets the job done, and then he's like, maybe just a little faster, and kablooey's the whole thing.
Well, he just blows up the plane, But
do you think they have 6 of them? Do you think they made 6 of them? There's probably just that one, right? I mean,
it seemed very Mavericky, but I'm going to say I loved it. I loved it, but it seemed just a touch on the ego nose for so early in the film, because the way they set up that opening scene, he seems so introspective. He seems so thoughtful, and so like he's got all the pictures of history. Like, this is a guy who has come a long way in 30 years and has learned some lessons. And the first thing that happens is he kind of steals the plane, because he's already effectively grounded. Like, you can't say he didn't know he was going to be grounded. So he gets in the plane, cons everybody else to do it with him, and then blows it up by going over the goal line by far enough. And that's not just a little bit, right? It's like he's traveling 7,700 miles per hour at that point, and faster than that as the plane starts to break apart. And so, it's the big moment. We need the big moment, and the joke in the diner wouldn't work without the big moment. But it is something that stopped me a little bit.
I thought the joke in the diner was a very sweet scene. I
Earth. I thought it was great.
Yeah, it was great.
I did too.
Yeah.
I thought it was really cute.
There was a real jokester in the theater I was in, that as you see the plane break up, and this guy, he went, "Well, that was short." Like the movie was over.
Oh yeah, right.
Yeah, no. There was a person in my audience that actually asked, "Did he die?" And I kind of turned, and I was glad I was in a dark theater, because my expression on my face would have been like, "You thought the movie would end here?" So.
And that was a joke. It wasn't a movie. The entire rest of it was an Applebee's commercial, because Tom Cruise died.
There is. I did not feel that the opening part, though, communicated him being at all introspective, because I read the pictures differently, because when you look at the pictures, they were all from 30 years ago, except for the recent ones of which I did not realize Rooster's name was Bradley Bradshaw. Bradley Bradshaw, which
That's
I was
rough.
like, wow, they hated him.
Yeah.
And so, but all the pictures were from the first movie. And that was it. That, like nothing, basically as if his life has been stuck in time from that point to this. That there's Bradley has grown up and lived somewhat of a life, but that's it. And then even to the point of where, so after he blows up which I'll bring up in a second, where after he blows up the plane, gets himself back, he's going to be grounded for life. That this is it for him in the Navy. He gets the admiral gets a call and says that I can't believe I have to do this, which I thought was a callback to the last movie, where the first movie was like, I can't believe I have to do this.
Almost
but I'm sending you to Top Gun.
Yeah, there are a lot of those callbacks. That is and I'll just set up my complete for me. I really enjoyed my time with this movie, and I watched it in that kind of every muscle is tight experience that I just, by the end, I realized I'm exhausted because I've been flinching for 2 hours and 10 minutes. But the template beats to the first movie were narratively exhausting too. Mm-hmm. I just found it like, give me a new movie. Don't give me the old movie with just better cinematography. I felt like it was lazily written. So that is, I think, where maybe the sound of curmudgeonness comes with my take on this movie.
There was that. There was it almost being word for word the same speech of like, I just can't believe I got to send you to Top Gun.
Yeah.
The toothpick, the little toy plane bit. There were lots and lots and lots of like shot for shot. Hey, do you get it?
And so,
do you get it?
This
one's
the question.
The Iceman. Huh?
This is the question, though, Krissy, and I wonder if this is how real this is, that so much of that was given to us specifically because many people seeing this movie haven't seen the first one 30 years ago. It is literally for a new generation of film viewers. It might not be for me, right? It might be for 18 to 24-year-olds who haven't seen the movie, who have yet to be heavily recruited to the Navy. I don't know, but, could it be that this is just their effort to give you a solid, like, here's what worked in the first movie. Let's go ahead and template it for people who haven't seen it.
I think the opposite. So I took my 11-year-old son to see it, who has not seen the first Top Gun, but he wouldn't have those like moments of like the hangman who always has the toothpick in his mouth.
Right. That's
exactly
what I mean.
Like Iceman.
For us, it reads as like overkill, or maybe for me, it reads as overkill. Why are you just giving me the same movie? Well, It's because that stuff worked in the first movie when I was a kid and hadn't seen anything prior. So let's go ahead and give it to this new generation because they haven't seen it before.
Right. So because when your 11-year-old's watching it, he's not going to think of Iceman at all.
No,
he's not going to think that. Oh, I've heard this speech of you go to Top Gun. He's not going. He's not going to.
I don't know anything about Val Kilmer. Like none of that means anything to me.
Yeah, you're right. When he's an admiral, he's like, okay, that's just some old dude in the screen.
Yeah, who's not talking very much.
He kept asking me. He kept being like, "So is Iceman dead?" And I was like, "No." And then later, "So is Iceman dead?" No. Yeah. And then he was like, "So now is Iceman
dead?" Yeah.
Yes.
yes.
I also thought it was funny that like everyone's an admiral apparently, except for Tom Cruise. Yeah. There's just admirals left and right and side. You could swing a cat and hit an admiral.
Of his peer group, that it would make sense because the ones you're talking about are basically his peer group. Because for him, he's a captain. The next rank in the military is admiral. So that would make sense that most of his peer group would be admirals. Even when he's being denigrated by the one admiral, saying you should have been an admiral by now or a senator or something like that. For his peer group, these men have been admirals for 10. The ones that are still in the Navy. Right, of his peers, they would have, almost all of them would have been admirals for a better part of a decade, and so that's part of the whole speech at the beginning, which is like, and here you are still a captain. Why are you still, why is that? And, and so because it doesn't make sense that he's not an admiral, but then he's all like, this is where I belong, blah blah blah, and so all right, so then and another part to me of how he doesn't. It's interesting to me that he's stuck in the time of the old one. Is how did you guys feel about him still having the motorcycle? From the first movie. Because
wait a minute. I feel like you're leading the witness because you're a motorcycle guy. I'm not, and that actually did feel pretty good. Like it felt like okay, have an antique motorcycle.
Yeah,
is that okay?
No. And so
also, like, I got the feeling he was
have it. You know, it's been. I mean, that thing would be 30-something years old. It would be like. I mean, it'd be like a 1980. I don't even think it was new then, right? So it's just about like having a 1982 motorcycle, and you've had it for the past 30-some.
Well, and you, I mean,
years.
you didn't like recognize it as a special motorcycle. It's not. There was nothing special about it.
It could be, and then he's a mechanical guy, so maybe he kept it together. But I thought it was weird that he still had the same bike. You know, because
he had multiple motorcycles in a row there. Like he chose that one to go to the test today for lucky day.
Nice, which is a nice callback. Throwback to. Well, no, he wrote it when he went to North Island. Because apparently he can ride. He could ride to Fighter Town from. Well, I mean, he's on the Mojave Desert, so as long as it's not, you know, a true island, he can lock. Yeah, it's across the bay. He can ride to it. So, okay. So, but now, let's talk about that. Since we talked about the bike for a quick second, he's now there, and now we go to the bar scene, and the bar scene really has two major points in it. One, which is we meet the love interest. We meet Penny.
We sure do.
Yes, we do, guys. And she is the Admiral's daughter that Goose referenced in the first Top Gun.
Yep.
She's played by Jennifer Connelly, and she owns the bar that he's in. And you have to, which I thought was interesting, like even to get their first interaction, you can they provide enough that you can assume, okay, they knew each other from before, but then it's almost like it's, I'm torn on how I felt about that. You know, is it okay because it was like, okay, we can just assume they knew that they knew each other from before and it's fine? Or is it that you're looking at the movie saying, wait, I have to remember a throwaway line from the first movie to understand who this person is? You know, because she was just mentioned one time. And so, but we're introduced to her, she's in the bar. And then the second part of the bar scene, which we'll talk about in sections, is where we meet all the other pilots. You know, Hangman, Coyote, Payback, Fanboy, Phoenix, Bob, and Rooster. And then there's the rest of the other pilots that don't matter. So I guess really the first part, why don't we just jump into the Penny story? And so I guess I'll start with you, Krissy. Did that love interest, that story work for you in this movie?
It worked for me on a couple of different levels. One, I did like the idea that, of course, Maverick would have these relationships that never really end, and he just picks up with that person whenever he's in that town. That seems to me like something that character would do, you know, to have the hometown girl. And then who knows what's happening when he's out all the other places that he's going to. And I believed it. Like, we didn't need a huge exposition dump. We just needed her to be like, yep, that's what you said last time. Then you went to Bosnia. Then Iceman called in a favor. And then you went all these other places. So let's just be cool and, you know, save our romance for the second act or whatever. The thing that bothered me the most about their interaction was that she expects people who come to her bar to know the rules that are written on a tiny piece of wood that's hanging.
Yeah.
It's hanging right there.
It's hanging right there behind her, out of vision, out of the eye line from anybody that she's talking to.
You will spend hundreds of dollars if you violate these rules. Yes.
That's a very expensive, and
hundreds of dollars. You think he spent a penny under $1,000? I mean, there were a lot of people in there, and booze is expensive.
Well, there weren't. The bar did quadruple between her ringing the bell and him looking around, him buying around for all those people, and then all of a sudden, apparently, he had to buy around for everybody that then came into the bar.
They came in, right? Yeah,
right. Because the whole thing was like 4 more from. Because remember when Hangman comes, he goes, 4 from my 4 new of my friends from Pops over there, right? It was like, well, these 4 just walked in, so apparently he's buying everybody a beer in perpetuity.
Yeah.
Until he leaves.
Gets thrown out of the bar.
Until he's thrown out, yes, yeah.
Well, I go ahead, Krissy.
No, also, like, she just rings the bell a second time, and they know that was the throw the guy out ring.
Yeah.
Not that we all get a drink ring. Like, how many special bell sounds are there in this bar?
Well, you would know, Krissy, if you turned around and saw the other board that actually has like SOS, like it actually tells you the bell patterns. You have to know it. Okay. I thought Jennifer Connelly's the character of Penny was once again wildly underwritten, and just by dint of her screen charisma, she made something of it. I think she's delightful. I have had a crush on her since the very beginning. I think she's just fantastic.
Opportunity Knocks was that the very beginning?
Yes, it is.
Yes,
it is.
Yes,
I would roller skate around at Target all night long.
Yeah. No.
So she's fantastic and delightful and super flirty, and I think that she is going to bring boyfriend jeans back because of this movie.
Boyfriend jeans?
They've been back a while, Pete.
Have
Sorry
they?
if you didn't.
I wouldn't. I mean, I don't know. I was just talking to my wife, and she was like, "Oh, nobody's doing boyfriend jeans. She's rocking the boyfriend jeans. Yeah, looks great. Yeah,
okay,
it's a good trend. She's super. She's just great. She's exactly what the movie needs, and I think fitting the template of Top Gun the first, she is a better Kelly McGillis than Kelly McGillis was in the first one. I enjoyed watching their relationship better. I enjoy watching a relationship of people who are in their middle age and having it be flirty and hot, sexy, romantic, all of that. And that she's 51 and he's 59. It was cool to see them.
Wow.
I agree.
I feel a second time that I watched a totally different movie. While I did think that Jennifer Connelly was great in it, I found the relationship to be tedious and kind of tedious, unremarkable, unbelievable. And every time they were on the screen together, I wanted to turn away. I actually, when I watched it the second time around, whenever they would have scenes with just the two of them, I would be like, "Oh, okay, well now it's time for me to take a break." And then I came back and I was like, "Yeah, this has
take a break." What do you do when you take a? You're in the movie theater.
Sometimes you have to go outside and just you take a break for a second. So, or you go to the bathroom.
Oh my goodness!
So if I had to go to the bathroom, I'd wait till they were only the two of them together, and I was like, "Oh, it's time to go." So I think that for me there was I guess I look at it as I did not view that they had any real chemistry with each other. I didn't feel any of that. I felt that in the story of their relationship to me, I thought was fairly poorly written and basic. Now, granted, I don't fault Top Gun for being anywhere where it's poorly written and basic because it's Top Gun. I'm not going to this for a twist, right? I'm not expecting that at all. I just found that, and I think for me, the biggest thing was, which I'm just going to jump through the whole thing with the relationship, even at the end, at the end, I never at any point in time felt that I was rooting for their relationship to work, right? It was just, there has to be a girl because it's Top Gun. She'll do, right?
This is exactly what, that's my hunch, is that you went into the movie with that impression and therefore had no patience for the relationship. That's my take. I think you were jaded going in and you didn't have the patience to even try to buy their relationship.
I don't... Yeah, I guess I don't. I can see why I would create that impression, but I really feel that it was more just I just didn't buy it. It just did not work for me what they were presenting on the screen. It just felt like it was just like, well, there has to be a girl, so there you go, she's there.
Oh, see,
I
feel like the payoff
any type of growth or anything going on with it. It was just kind of like, all right, there had to be something.
Can I disagree completely?
Yeah, go. Yes, go.
Because I felt like to me she was, on some levels, it is a bummer that it takes a woman and a relationship with a child to be this for the character. But she was that like grounding force for Maverick that was going to be a home for him eventually, right? Like he's just like this loner rebel, he just lives in the sky and by the seat of his pants, Mach 3 with his hair on fire. But like, she was this girl who he like got in trouble with when he was young and came back to like at these different points in his life. And now that he is going to end up being like grounded, I got the feeling that he could have a life with her that would be exciting for him, because she understood him in that way. Like you could tell that she understood these Navy guys. She's the admiral's daughter. She's got her own kid. They're both over all the bullshit, and they can just like look great and hang out on beach. Sipping Long Island iced teas in white pants.
In white pants. I think at the end, too, the payoff to that whole story is when she pushes him out of the window and says she has to keep up expectations, or she has to be a role model for her daughter. Mm-hmm. And when he stands up and sees the daughter, and the daughter says, "Don't break her heart." Like that is I think that is one of the signs of Maverick's of growth, of Pete. Yeah. Mitchell's growth, and that he's being confronted by this stuff, and I think it's consequences, and I think that's out of the mouths of babes sort of a moment, and I thought that was very powerful. I thought that was useful in the story.
Yeah, no, I like that. I like that scene when with the daughter. I thought the daughter was great. And I think that I don't know. I guess I feel that to me the ending reads no differently than the first one. You know, at the end of the first one, he was going to be grounded and together, and he and Charlie were going to go live off happily ever after because Charlie gets him. She's a civilian contractor dealing with the military at all times, like that, understands all the pressures and things of his life and all that. And then now she's 5 minutes later she's gone. And so
Charlie was always going to put her career first.
Yep, absolutely. And in contrast, Penny was done with that part of it. Like Krissy says, she was over it, and like she was happy with the bar and her little Porsche and everything.
Sorry, Ocean.
Her little
like
Porsche
we're yelling
Boxster.
at you.
Yeah.
Yeah. No. That's. I guess. Yeah. No. We like I said, like I opened. I think we watched partly different movies.
I can't wait to see when we actually started watching the same movie.
See a beautiful love story of a man and his girl, and I'm like, this is just nothing.
Yeah.
All right, so let's go to the second part of the bar scene, which maybe we'll find some agreement. So Pete, did the new crop of pilots work for you? Did you have a favorite? There's a lot of interesting characters here. So what did you think of? I mean, they had to introduce them somehow. I felt that this was a good way to do it. Just, throw them in a bar scene, have them shooting pool. They can kind of talk back and forth to each other, and that at least gives you a little bit of a flavor of who each of them are. But then did you So I guess start with there. Did you have a favorite of the new pilots?
They were serviceable puppets. I think that they had to fit the stereotype of the Top Gun naval aviator that was set in the first movie, and they had all of the right kind of smug, kind of shouldery, kind of poppin' ego that they needed to have. I thought Hangman was just the worst. I really liked Miles Teller. I'm already in the bag for Teller. And so I think him showing up and having clearly done the work to look the part of the naval aviator, I thought was really, really great. So, I do have to give a shout out to Monica Barbero. She is one of two of the women that showed up and totally held their own with the stick puppets of male ego parade on screen. So they were fine.
I like Bob. I love Bob. I know that he was put there for me to fall in love with, and it worked. I loved him. He was exactly cute and not threatened by them and not threatening to them. Like he was just sitting there eating his peanuts and watching the show, and he wasn't going to get all up in everybody's face and try and show that he was the toppest gun. He was just like, I'm Bob.
Yeah, that was such a great moment of comedy too. No, what's your call sign? It's Bob.
And it was Bob. And I loved him. And I liked him throughout the movie. And he was an important character for me because the toxicity of the masculinity in the first movie and all of that posturing of the pilots and who's the best, I'm the best. And you're right, Iceman, I am dangerous. Okay. It was just a break in all of that. So we had, at least one female pilot. Okay, good. I'm glad she was there. We had some people of color in the mix. Good. I'm glad they were there. And we had one nerd in the mix who was just as tough and just as good at his job as the rest of them. And it worked for me. And also, how come Rooster didn't have to wear his uniform and everyone else did?
Well, because he'd been traveling, he'd been vagabonding.
Right. Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Everyone else had time to put on their fancy pants, and he just rolls in a tank top and a Hawaiian shirt.
Well,
that's right,
because he's the rooster. He has to peacock or whatever for everybody. So he dresses differently.
Can I just say one thing about Bob too? That Bob is actually they play him up as the nerd, but he's such a versatile actor, and the other movie that I love of his, which I don't know if I'm an island in this. I think it did fairly well. He played Miles in Bad Times at the El Royale, and I really loved that movie. That was
Hemsworth is in that, right?
Yeah. You're probably on an island there with that movie.
No. It's a look.
Yeah.
It's a 7.1 on IMDb. Like it
Really?
actually did very, very well.
Okay.
Cynthia Erivo and another John Hamm movie, obviously. So
Yes.
yeah, it's
I thought he was
really
super
enjoyed that
cute,
movie.
and I found him adorable.
Yes.
No. Yes. Okay. No, I guess I agreed with 2/3 of what you're saying in terms of that. I was already in the. I too am already in the bag for Miles Teller. He's great in just about everything he does. And so I liked him, and Bob was great, and I did like that. I did like the diversity of the cast, not only in terms of just like the obviously of the racial diversity, the Mexican American diversity, the women, all
there
that.
is no sundown in this movie. You'll note, they treated everybody
yeah. No, when I saw this movie the second time with my mom, she asked me like why wasn't sundown in the movie. I was like, well, Mom, they'd have to then in a movie in 2022 call a black man sundown. They're not going to do that.
They're not going to do that.
So sundown's not making.
Do that.
Yeah. They're not going to do that. And so, but the diversity of who they, kind of who they were, and the person. I think the thing I'd like to use the diversity of personality. I do agree with you, Krissy, that in the first movie, basically they were all Maverick or Iceman or wannabe Mavericks and Icemen, right? Goose was a little bit different. He was the only one, but basically they were all trying to be the same guy. But I did, however, love Hangman. I looked at Hangman and I thought what they decided to do was like, what if we just took Maverick and Iceman and melded that into one person, and that's Hangman.
One terrible, toxic piece of garbage.
Awesome person who does great, awesome things, which we'll talk about later. But so that
you know what it was. Look, there's what's his name who does the Colin Jost does the SNL, right? And he just wrote a book, a memoir, and it is called
Face.
A Very Punchable Face. And the book is. Most of it is really great. A lot of New York inside baseball stuff that I like a lot. And I think it appeals to, the Colin Jost fan. But since I read that book, I have been really clocking the punchable faces in pop culture. And this is one of them. Hangman is a very punchable face. And I just I felt like he's going to need to carry a lot of water to redeem him by the end of this movie. And I don't think he ever really did.
Oh, well, I guess
disagreement.
I just felt that he didn't necessarily have to. I think that there's an aspect of it as far as even with the diversity of the cast that it makes a lot of sense to have, and it makes it a more entertaining movie. But at the end of the day, there are different people, different personality types, and you got to be really self-confident and overly cocky to be able to be like, yes, I'm going to get in this plane and do these,
Of course you do. Of course you do. But Iceman got
people like that. Yeah.
Iceman got a redemption story at the end. I think he was just a more believable, at the graduation, a more believable reconciliation with Maverick at the end of that movie.
Oh, so you mean the redemption as far as the reconciliation at the end?
I know you have to be an egomaniacal jerk in many ways to just get over yourself enough to go get in these vehicles. That's fine. I think at that point you're maybe making more a statement about the actors, right? Because the reconciliation at the end for Iceman was the actor and the part.
Val Kilmer and Tom Cruise are better actors when they shake hands at the end of a movie. You feel it, right? Whereas Miles Teller and oh goodness, I'm gonna find Hangman.
I wanted a hug. Glenn, what's his name?
Glenn Powell. Yeah,
Glenn Powell.
Also, Glenn Powell. When they shake hands, it doesn't create the same amount of emotion.
Well, maybe, but I also think it's an underwritten part. I think it's okay to have underwritten parts, and that be demonstrated by the fact that sometimes these characters can't actually get every bite out of the role.
Okay. I get what you're saying about the thing at the end. I think that I just liked Hangman in general. Like I liked him the whole way. Yeah. And so even though he was being set up to be the bad guy, I kind of looked at him like, no, he's kind of like, there's a lot of stuff he says that makes sense. And so, but I did like him. But then, I do recognize that, as far as my criticism about the actors, that it was a callback to the exact same scene at the end of Top Gun. And then now I'm going to just jump ahead real quick. The scene when Val Kilmer, with Val Kilmer typing, right? The acting that he and Tom Cruise do together really kind of show you. To me, that's great acting. They're emoting a lot and providing a lot of emotional heft in a scene where they're not really talking to each other. But look, so that was my little teaser for later. So we'll talk about that later. So let's get back to where we are. So they do the callback to the first movie where Maverick comes in front of the class. I'm just jumping next day. He comes in front of the class. They didn't know he was a teacher. What?
You're not going to talk about Great Balls of Fire?
Oh, no, you were right. That was the best Anthony Edwards impersonation ever.
Why would he do that, though? It made no sense to me.
Well, it was a callback to when he was, I guess, 5. And then, because I imagine that he was 5, right? In the scene, the flashback scene?
Yeah.
You think about 5? So it's a callback to that. And so then he really liked it. Or maybe his mom taught it to him because his mom loved it. And that's just what he just did all the time. Now, I don't know why he would do it. I honestly, for me, the moment of this was, I felt that I did not like the choice of doing all the flashbacking over the Great Balls of Fire, because you could see, I mean, I don't know if he was really playing, but I was believing he was really playing. I know they were really singing. And kind of what they were doing in the bar, I felt that, like, you know what? Obviously you shot this. Why don't you show more of that? Because these flashback scenes you're showing, I've seen all of that, right? Or if you can do the flashback, you almost like pause them doing it and then come back to seeing them doing it. But I think that they left a really great scene kind of on the table there, as opposed to showcasing what they were doing. The kind of the bonding and the camaraderie of them singing the song. But I guess since I stepped on it first, what did you think of that part with the Great Balls of Fire?
I loved it. I actually really loved it. And let me just tell you, every serviceable piano player, like, let's just say every, bar-based piano player has a song that they love and can play really, really well. And I thought the flashback actually set that up for this being Roosters. And that was totally in line with what I think he would do. Like, I absolutely believe he just has that in the back of his head. It's a thing that his parents did for him. It's a thing that he knew from his dad. His mom probably played it all the time before she died. I absolutely believe that. And my understanding is Teller, he does play very well. He obviously is musically inclined. I know he started playing the piano at a very young age as a performer, and so I have no reason to doubt that he actually sat down and played this. And so mostly that could just be me and I'm shipping Miles Teller and a piano right now. But I really enjoyed that moment, and I think it was a great emotional moment for him. I don't know. I don't feel like I've sufficiently swayed Krissy.
I just thought, I was really confused about whether or not Rooster knew that Maverick was in the bar. Like, did he not look over any time and be like, oh shit, there's Uncle Pete. Okay. I guess I'll go play the song.
No. Okay. One point. I think that was blocked
to make sure that he didn't know.
That scene was blocked so just algorithmically, so to keep their eye lines from meeting one another, so that he could not actually see.
Where Maverick is like, "What? No, don't look at me, Rooster."
Yeah.
Like,
yes,
right. You can't. If I can see you, you can't see me.
Yes. No, they definitely blocked the scene sequences and the turning of heads and how when they look at different places and everything. That no, he didn't know. The Rooster did not know that Maverick was in the bar.
Yeah, okay. That's my understanding.
And then the first time he saw him was when he does the Charlie scene from Top Gun.
Mm-hmm.
He comes in front of the class and says, "I am your instructor. Here is the book. The book is garbage. Let's go out and dogfight."
I thought that was so silly. Like, I thought that was so silly. I was like, I could just imagine being like, okay, I'm a teacher. All right, give me the book and then like a trash can, and I'm gonna like throw the book in the trash can, and it'll be like
stand and deliver or something. Yeah, right.
And it's like a metaphor, but like, oh, I could just see Maverick being like, that's what teachers do. I'll throw the rule book in the trash. Ugh, I felt secondhand embarrassment.
Well, this actually is, I think that is an interesting point, because I also thought it was silly, even though I liked it, because I knew that what was coming next is why I showed up for this movie.
That's exactly right.
Yes. Let's get up and dogfight.
Good morning, aviators.
Yes. So I guess then, what did you think of that? So talk about it, Pete. What did you think about the first of because they had 3 or 4 really good plane scenes.
Yeah.
This is the first one with the dogfighting, and their running joke of the push-ups. So what'd you think
I'll
of that?
take it. I'll take every single bit of it. I loved it so much. I really did. I thought it was as exhilarating and exuberant and exhausting as I went in expecting it to be, and it just had me tied in knots. The way it was shot, I was just breathless through the entire thing. Every time one of their heads would get smashed up against the canopy as they're looking around, and when they start pulling G's and you see their eyelids flatten out into their face. Like I was in every moment that we were in the cockpit with them. I thought it was extraordinary filmmaking.
So at any point in time, did either of you give a pause or a thought to these people all graduated Top Gun, which is purportedly a dogfighting school, and none of them seem to be that good at dogfighting?
Oh, I got the impression that they were all very, very good at it, but he was just like, I threw the rule book in the trash, friends. I'm going to pop up in between you and do things that you would never think of doing because they're not in your books. Like, that's what I thought they were trying to tell us, is that the way that Maverick flies, and I think that's what they were trying to tell us in the beginning, is like so not by the book that, you know, you can get an A in dogfighting class, but it's like boxing versus the one
mixed martial arts.
Thank you. Yes,
versus
like
mixed martial arts.
you show up doing this and being
You're
like
doing,
that.
not thinking. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank
or
you.
You're thinking, not doing.
And he was just like willing to bend the rules of what you're supposed to do, like fly up in between them, hover up above them, which is like the antics he got in trouble for in the first one, right? Was to be like, I'm on top of you.
Yes, he's teaching them to do the stuff that he was not allowed to do. And now somehow that's okay. And that was fine by me. It was all absolutely fine. It was, now we're into jet porn and I am there for it. That sequence
I'm
where they
100% there for
corkscrewed down, I thought was just...
So I had two thoughts about that part.
Was that the first? That was the first one.
That was in the first round.
Yeah, the first dog fight. Yes. Okay. Yeah. I was kind of, interestingly for me, blown away just at the beginning of that when he goes through the two planes, because it kind of snapped in my head there. While it just looks, as a scene, it kind of looks normal, but that's when it really hit me. I'm like, wait a minute, they actually did that.
Yeah.
Right. Like they're actually flying these planes like this, which that's why I was like, okay, well now this is insane, and I'm in. But I don't know. So anyway, that's what I wanted to say about the scene itself. But then I guess I interrupted you too about so you had something about the spinning did you not like the spinning scene of where they're, deciding who's better or worse?
So the whole bit of the planes, like when I brought my son's name is Rocket, and
outstanding.
So he was like, we're watching the movie, and he's like, yeah, Mom, I guess I'll see Top Gun with you, like eating his popcorn or whatever. And then when that happened and he flew up in between them, he was just like, and he sat, he just like, his eyes opened huge, and he sat way forward, and he was just like, Mom, this is awesome. And then as whenever interesting plane stuff happened, he'd just go like, wow. So he loved it. But that moment with Rooster and Maverick, where they're flying in the corkscrew with the planes, I was just like, okay, well, here it is. Like, here's the moment where they're the masculinity, which was like, I thought doing pretty okay for much of this movie, was like, nope, now we're gonna let it get toxic, and we're gonna let the fact that we can't like talk out this like interpersonal thing almost kill us in these fancy planes. Okay,
I feel that they were talking it out. But go ahead.
They were driving at the ground.
Yeah.
Yeah, but they were discussing it as they were going down. But go ahead.
No, I just want to, I'll mediate between you two, because I think actually they needed this sequence of toxicity in order to meet out the more emotional stuff that comes later. That is subtle, nay, might be hidden, but there is a reconciliation between Teller and Maverick that comes later, and it has to get over the hump of the like buffalo locking horns first. So I I mean, I didn't care for that stuff, mostly because I was just dizzy with excitement of watching these planes do those things. And it's not lost on me that isn't it the central problem of the Good Morning Aviators, him flying up between those two planes as close as he did? Isn't that the jet wash problem as those planes go whoosh and flip all over the place that actually killed Goose the first time? Like they actually did this stuff. That I don't know if the planes are just better now and don't suffer those same sorts of issues, but
I would imagine it had to be that because you're right. The physics would remain the same. I of course, I'm assuming and not having with my 0 hours of flight experience.
All
jet wash thing was actually real. And they didn't just make that up for the movie because they were like, well, we got to kill him somehow.
Right. No, I don't think they made that up.
We gotta kill him somehow.
We need the emotional punch. He has to die.
Yeah.
So then I think that, I don't know if it's changed, or is it maybe the Just Watch was because they were going into it that way versus the other? I don't know. But
but it was extraordinary.
I would imagine the planes are a bit better.
Yeah.
That have to be, they have to be better. So, but I don't know.
Yeah.
So
it was fantastic.
Okay. So let's talk about the mission. Okay, so the mission, as it was described, was there is an unnamed country, which I believe Top Gun is really good at this with both cases. They never really name an enemy of any kind. You just kind of insert whatever it is you picture it being there, right? Because like in the 80s, it was, the Cold War was obviously going on. Mm-hmm. So obviously you just threw in whatever, usually Russian, because that was US Russia, but it could have been any of the, any of those countries. And in this case here, you're just like, okay, a country is going to have enriched uranium, and you as the moviegoer get to just insert whatever country you want, and then I think that kind of works in that it makes the movie where it's like, later on down the road, it doesn't get into anything geopolitical, right? Because, things change, who our allies and enemies are change over time. So they just insert country here. They're going to have some uranium. Our allies, who we never mention, don't like that. And so we need to then blow it out. We need to blow it up before it becomes, the uranium, I think blow it up before it becomes enriched. Now the mission.
I think the word you're looking for is fully operational. That's in fact the words they use.
They use the word fully operational. Okay,
they do.
So then, and I see you're ahead of my question. And so then, but let me. And
I'm
now,
so glad we're going this way. I know your answer to my question as well. But you're ahead of my question. Okay, so in this mission, they had to fly at a low level through a twisting cavern because there are canyon.
Sorry,
you might call it a canyon run.
You might call it that. Yes, you might call it a canyon run because there are gun turrets over the top of it that are meant to protect the sky, but not the canyon. So they have to go underneath that, or else they'd be shot up by that. And then they have to do an inverted flip dive down into a really deep valley with
like a volcano.
Exactly, like an inverted volcano, and that they then have to shoot a 3-meter target twice. Once to open up the larger hole, 2 to get the other bomb in, and then they have to pull out and go straight up, which is going to pull roughly 10 Gs. They usually say 9 or 10 Gs, and it seems to be differently based on which it probably does it, but that's about what they're going to pull to get straight up out of the cavern, at which point they're now going to be visible by the missiles they're going to have to dodge, and that there are other planes, hangars, and there are these things called 5th generation fighters, which allows you to insert bad guy here. Mm-hmm. Insert overpowered bad guy fighter jets here. Then they will come get you, and they will come after you. And then it's a dogfight to get home because you have to fight these other fighters, and that's the mission. And so clearly, I know Krissy's answer. So Pete, when you heard this mission, at any point did you think to yourself, so they're attacking the Death Star?
I did. I thought that exactly. And I thought, I hope the canyon isn't lined with womp rats. I did think of that. It is one of those things I sort of imagined as I walked out. I wonder if the writers ever stopped and thought, did we just write Star Wars? Because it is totally something I could see them never noticing. Right, that they just rewrote Star Wars.
It's the ventilation shaft.
It is the ventilation shaft. Yeah.
It's a ventilation shaft that is the only way to shoot a bullet right into the heart of
Yeah.
the thing and blow it up from the middle.
Right.
Yes.
But
exactly.
you can totally imagine, like, as people who are lovers of pop culture who would stop and write a movie like this, how they might not even notice that they had just done it with jet planes. It didn't feel like an insult.
I don't
to
think
me.
here's where I was giving them the benefit of the doubt. I think they thought, we're making a movie with planes. We're going to do this practically. What is the type of mission? Let's design this mission to make these airplanes do really cool things.
Yeah.
Right. And that's what, and because you think about all the different things they have to do, where the actors have to take these G-forces and the inverted dive and then come back up, and the fact that they're going to do it practical with planes, with the actors in the planes. What's a cool way to show everything off in a mission like that? I think they started there, and then they just backed into, and I'm going to give them the benefit of, like what Pete did. Unbeknownstly, they attacked the Death Star.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Can I do a very quick backup?
Yes, absolutely.
This is on Fifth Generation, because the way we sort of presented it was as a narrative tool, and it is not a narrative tool. It is a classification of jet fighter aircraft, which includes major technologies developed during the first part of the 21st century. These are the most advanced fighters in operation. They include the PLAAF Chengdu J-20, the F-22 Raptor, and the Russian Air Force Sukhoi Su-57. And one of those, I believe it's the Raptor, but I'm not sure. But those were definitely legit planes. They weren't like made up planes. They are these fifth generation planes. They include stealth, low probability of intercept radar, agile airframes, and super cruise performance in their advanced avionics. So, as someone again who has spent countless 0 hours in the cockpit of a plane, nor do I study airplanes at all, it felt kind of hand wavy, but it like legit isn't hand wavy. It's a classification of fighter jet.
I thought that the characterization, the fifth. Thank you for bringing that in. I didn't think that the fifth generation, like calling that was a real thing. Those planes, they did design them and make them, and they.
I think they're the Raptor.
I think with McDonnell Douglas is where they put them together to just design. So they made these planes, but they're not. Like of the planes you listed off, it's not exactly one of those, but it is
very close.
They're very similar. They made because they wanted it to be a plane that would not be associated to any country.
Yeah,
so they said just modify it a bit, so that way you can just insert whatever you want there. But
it would have been really cool if they had been like more circular, and then like if each one had like two just wings on the side, but it was circular in the middle. So it was like,
oh yeah, they'd really get tied up in that canyon fight. It is it's Lockheed. Lockheed built the flashy hypersonic jet, fifth gen jet.
Yep.
Lockheed
okay.
Martin.
So now that we understand the mission, so they then break the training down into two different phases. And phase one is to fly through the canyon. Mm-hmm. And so what I found interesting here as a device is this is where it's a great, it gives you enough of those airplane scenes, right? Because that's let's face it, that's why we're here, right? And all of them going back and forth and through the simulation, and then you're I guess really kind of they broke the training sequences into halves. So it's your first half of where they're not successfully training it, and then also Maverick is explaining to them, why did you die? What's the reason? Tell me a reason. Is going to tell his family, which is really kind of then raising the stakes of what it means, for them to die in this situation. And I thought I felt that part worked for me. I don't know that it was supposed to, but that part I was kind of fine with. But then what I did notice though, when they went through the whole thing, it was like, well, no, other than Rooster showing up a minute late, no one ever successfully did it. Mm-hmm. And I felt that was, and I know they compressed the timetable of the movie and all that, but that part just felt pushed to me, like they never got it to a point of where he was, in a sense, teaching these kids to successfully do this.
Well, that's because they didn't have the belief that they could do it. And this actually worked for me 100%. He has that incredibly emotional sequence where he's teaching and saying, tell them what you're going to tell their family, why they're dead, which I thought was very powerful and actually echoes. I'd written up my review for Letterboxd that I haven't posted yet, but it really echoes what I think is Tom Cruise's the weight that he actually carries on his shoulders about making movies anymore. It's like, what am I going to tell all the people whose jobs are lost if we don't keep this production going? And he had the exact same discussion when he broke his leg in the last Mission Impossible, that he had to finish the scene with a broken leg because he knew what would happen. What would he tell all these people, these families that are going to lose their wages for months when the production is shut down? Like that, I feel like was an echo of the weight that Tom Cruise lives with because of the size of his iconic, persona right now. So I really liked that scene. I liked what it represented. But we had to get through a whole lot of failure in order to get to the beat where he steals the F-18 and he climbs in it and somehow has enough help to actually get it off the ground and run the canyon himself, because that demonstrates that it can be done. And once these other Top Gun pilots see that it can be done, they will be able to do it. Such is the power of belief. And I think at that same moment, they all went clear at the same time and became Scientology.
They all went clear. I was going to say, are you referencing Scientology?
But wasn't there a moment, and maybe I'm getting them backwards, but there's a moment where he is talking with John Hamm and he's like, we need to get them in there and get the job done so they can do it slower. And he's like, no, we also need to get them home.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes,
we need to get them home
much earlier. Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
And and of course he's thinking of Rooster. He gets to get Rooster home. He has a personal investment in getting them home. And like John Hamm doesn't have that same.
Which was interesting. They gave John Hamm after that point. John Hamm becomes much more of a bull on coming home. Like he uses those specific words, bring him home, get him home, get him home. And he almost goes way too far. Like he when they succeed, he's like, get him home. I don't care if Maverick went down. Get him home, get him home. Like he's finally
get him home.
Got it. Yeah, Maverick said, get him home. We're going to get him home. So anyway, I like John Hamm as a rube.
As a real grump.
I thought it was fun.
He's
he's a real grump.
Yeah. I like John Hamm a lot. I liked him a lot in this movie. So.
I did too. No, I liked all of that too. And you definitely get that sense that like Tom Cruise, like he greeted me personally before the movie. He believes in the power of making movies.
Yes.
And I believe in him believing in the power of him making movies.
Oh, so hard.
But for me, what I was like, and of course they weren't going to do this, but what could have happened would be like that he doesn't fly the mission, that he does have to be the person in the booth hoping that he did teach it, because they kept saying, you have to teach them, you have to let go, you have to let someone else do the mission, like you have to teach them so that you can trust them. That's what being a parent is, right? Is that you have to, and Penny says that about her own daughter, you have to teach them what you can and then trust them to do what needs to be done and let them do it. So I just had wished there was a moment where Maverick had to be in the back seat at any point.
And even in the biggest moment of teaching in the movie, when old Typey Fingers Iceman stops and says, you have to let go, right? They cut back to that screen several times in that scene. That is the point of this movie, is grown-ups have to let go. And Maverick, that was like snatching defeat from the jaws of victory for the sake of cinema. And I understand those are really competing, the big budget, like people show up to see Maverick win stuff. And he needed to win this. He needed to be put in a position of being able to protect Miles Teller for the very last time and all of that in order to let go. I get all of those things. I think it would have been better for the character if he'd actually been able to learn the lesson of letting go. He never did.
And like, we're talking about like the outside picture of it too, of like Tom Cruise being this like, is he the only one who can do these blockbuster blah blah blahs? It's like, well, if you never let anyone else try. Maybe pass the torch a little bit, or like you can both hold the torch for a little bit.
No, because the ending story could have been, you could have written a version of this where Hangman and Rooster do it.
Yeah,
with the other four.
You could have written a version where that flies and he is in the back seat. No,
yeah, but that's a different job. That's a whole different job.
Yeah, but Rooster was a pilot.
Yeah, that's what I mean. But Rooster, when he got in the back seat, he was like, I don't know how to do this. And
right.
Maverick says, yeah, I don't either. That was your dad's job, right? Like that there, it's a totally different function. I don't think they're trained for it.
But I think you're right, Ocean. If it had been, if it had been Rooster and Hangman,
right? Like Hangman would take Maverick's place at the end and do that. There's a version of that you can do that. I think that's, and again, what I think the theme of this entire podcast is, and we were watching different movies, and so I found that, and this is what I was leading to with the whole thing about what I thought was interesting, how they never succeeded in the training. So we jumped ahead in that not only did they not succeed in the canyon, they never succeeded in hitting the hole of the Death Star.
Yeah.
So they
not
never
until Maverick did it
once in anything. And so to me, the problem I had was that they showed Maverick doing it, and then now all of a sudden they can all do it perfectly, flawlessly. Everybody comes back alive
because of the power of belief.
No, see that's that to me that's no. This is just no. This is my problem with it, is that in the first, so I'm going to compare it to the first one. In the first Top Gun movie, when you look at everything they were training for, over time they got better at the training, because by the beginning Jester was killing them all day, and by the end every now and again they would get them right. They got a little bit better. The ending stakes was a ramping up of that. So you felt, hey, these people were trained to do this. We've ramped it up, but they have the foundation to handle this new challenge. In this movie, it was like, well, we've created a challenge, laid it out for them. They have failed at it 100% of the time. And now I'm supposed to believe that now that it's real, they can do it flawlessly? No. That's just, to me, that's lazy. That's lazy in a way of like you're either cramming too much for time, or you're trying to, you're not focused on the right things. You need to have it where I did not find it believable that nobody died.
Well,
right? Because I was like, you all failed at this 100%. Yeah. And then on top of that, to make it the end where they just blow it up, he shoots blind. Yeah. Right. And I'm like, you couldn't get it when they were like, when it was the no pressure, no nothing going on, you can get it now. This one blind time, perfect. I'm not
going to say, Ocean, I really am not going to say I disagree with you on any of this. All I'm saying is that the movie employed this power of faith in yourself trope in order to get us over the hump of having to show everybody be good at something. And they're already great pilots. We know that because they're here. Right. Is the power of belief enough to get them over the hump? I totally agree with you. And in the first movie, they all had to pass proficiently to graduate. That's what they were getting to. They had to graduate from this school. So they had to show them actually good at something. Right. And that's when they introduced the mission. But in this movie, they had the pressure of the mission as the ticking bomb from the beginning, from our introduction of all these characters. Like they were in a race. And I think that's the different thing. They needed something else to demonstrate that the stakes were very high going into this. And the tool that they used was they couldn't do it by themselves. We had to go in uncertain if they were going to be able to complete the mission. Mm-hmm. We had to believe that they weren't good at what they had to do in order to be happy and thrilled when they accidentally do it.
Yeah. I also thought, like, I thought they were setting us up to have Phoenix and Bob die. I thought we were going to lose Phoenix and Bob. I thought they were going to get fringed hardcore. Like, I was like, no, you made me love them too much.
Yeah. No, I've seen enough of these movies. Believe me, Payback and Fanboy were dying first.
But right. I was actually 100%. Surprised that nobody died.
Nobody died.
The end of the movie, they get a couple people shot down, right? That we have some shoot down, and it just ended up starting to feel rushed, right? Because at the end of the movie, Cruise rescues Teller in the plane, and he gets shot down. Teller ignores rules and goes back and shoots the helicopter down, and he gets blown up and shot down. They end up in the woods together, and that leads us to the big final race where they run across the Ukraine, I guess. I don't know where they're running. They're running across someplace in the snow, those parts, and they end up stealing a movie prop from Top Gun 1.
Mm-hmm.
to get out.
And then killing all the fancy planes.
Yeah, killing the fancy planes with a 30-year-old movie prop.
There was one point where they dropped the one F-bomb in the movie.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, they had to keep that PG-13 rating.
Yep.
So you only get one.
And the rocket was like...
So what did you think? What did you guys think of that?
It was appropriate when he said it, because what that plane did was insane.
Yeah, it was.
The way that it avoided it was
that was crazy.
So yeah, I think that the F-14 thing was a throwback to the whole movie's a throwback to the other movie.
The whole
obviously
movie.
You have a throwback there, and then you have to put them in the plane together, and the thing of all that sequence is that part. From when they got shot down on, from then I'm buying it because I think it is. I'm not buying the redemption of these two characters. Then getting and in a sense bonding through this moment where they effectively save each other's lives. Showing that yes, we can handle all this, but kind of Rooster saying like, yes, I can handle this type of pressure. And so I was really fine with all of that. I was fine with the way that they killed the first two 5th generation planes. That seemed to work for me. So that whole sequence I really didn't have a problem with. I mean, honestly, had that been the mission at the end, I was like, well, all that makes sense. Hitman coming at the end, like all of that to me makes sense and aligned with it. And so I personally found that I really enjoyed that sequence, and I thought that it did make me buy the reconciliation between Rooster and Maverick.
I agree with you. I just felt from a pacing perspective, it was rushed. It was a lot to jam into the last.
It was very Mission Impossible, though. Like it had the feel of Mission Impossible in the way that he packs those movies so full of.
Yes,
this goes wrong, and this goes wrong, then this happens, and this happens, and this, and then this. It felt like that part felt like a Mission Impossible.
Miles Teller didn't have any problem at all getting these antique like hoses unplugged from this jet, like everything unscrewed properly. There wasn't anything jammed with like dirt and rust. Like it was just easy. I know. Well, I'm nitpicking.
I think you're nitpicking in a different way. The planes are old, but they are still being maintained.
Yeah, I guess that's true. Yeah.
Right. So I think that they would just all pop off and go off because it was like they were still using
it. And it was fueled and it was armed like it had.
Yeah, they're still
weapons.
Using it. So I think it would just be he'd have to know.
It's not like he was taking it out of a museum.
What were they using it for though? Like if they had these 5th gen fighters, what are they?
Well, they probably didn't have very many of the 5th gen fighters.
They probably have. Yeah.
Like someone's got to go get the groceries. They don't have Instacart. They got to get the
F-14.
Well, I don't think. I mean, granted, our military, the U.S. military has so much more money that we kind of cycle through some of these things more. But there's still though you'll have years and years and years of these old planes still sitting around. So if you had just less of them, you'd have a set of new ones, and then some of these old ones would still be there. Okay. And let's face it, that F-14. For a lot of countries, that if you don't have a historic Air Force, I mean, this is still a really great plane. It's just not for
clearly,
standards, but no, exactly. With the right pilot.
Well, and so the F-14 was retired by the U.S. Navy on September 22nd, 2006.
Yeah,
I mean that's actually in the scope of the maintenance of heavy machinery. That's not that long ago.
Yeah. So no, I buy that if they were maintaining them, I buy that all that stuff would work.
Oh,
but then
it is still in service with the Islamic Republic of Iran. Now we know where Tomcat takes place.
Well, no, it doesn't take place there because it was someplace where there was snow in, I presume, the summer. I always felt this movie was set in the summer, so that means we were somewhere where there's snow in like June. Right. Okay, so since we speaking of the fast pace of the movie and the fast pace of the conversation, one thing I want to make sure we stop and talk about Val Kilmer. Yeah. I really loved how they incorporated him, in the movie. The character itself and everything was, you need a guardian angel admiral watching over you. That works. That's fine. But I really loved how it was like, so since he, the actor, is truly battling with throat cancer. It is throat cancer. Am I correct there? Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. And the way they said, okay, we want to have him come back and reprise his role. It hurts to talk, so we don't want to give him a whole bunch of lines. And then to do this mechanism, right, where they say, kind of like Pete talks to the wife for a minute. Oh, it came back. So that helps you explain, okay, that's why he's typing, and that they were able to, that scene of where, he's typing at first and that, and effectively that Tom Cruise is now acting against a man emoting with his face alone. and it worked. And then when he, gets up at the end and starts talking, and then they're like, we're having a beautiful moment, why ruin it, and everything. It ended in a great comedic beat. I really thought that all in all, everything they did to bring him back so he could reprise this role was very well done. And I also found that I was like, also looking at like, well, these two actors are so much better actors than everybody else in this movie. Because at no point in time with any two characters, when they were discussing anything, did I ever feel that.
I thought it was pretty powerful, and I was not spoiled at that. I didn't know that Kilmer was actually in the movie. I thought the extent of it was going to be the nod with the photograph on the wall, and so it was a real joy to see him in this movie, especially after watching the documentary Val last year, which was an extraordinary survey of his career, told in the voice of his son, because he can't speak. Like it's not just that it hurts to speak. In fact, all of his lines in this movie were AI generated. Like they used his own voice, and they created a new voice for Val Kilmer of his voice, but his lips were moving. It was the AI doing the voice, like young Luke and Darth Vader in Obi-Wan, and like right. they created the voice. But it was a very powerful bit of a reunion for these two characters that were so important from the first movie. I thought it was extraordinary.
I cried a bunch. I cried the whole time. I cried so much. I cried. Yes. I cried a lot. So I thought it was really good.
Would you, as far as the crying goes, was it from that scene, or did you feel any emotional impact when Iceman died?
Yes, I did.
Okay.
And I got all the emotional impact. I was crying the whole time.
Okay. Yeah, I found it that it was interesting to me that I don't know. I think that I was more optimistic or hopeful. I don't even know if the hopeful is the right term, but this is going to sound morbid, but it is what it is. I found that, like, while I saw from the trailer there'd be a funeral scene, it was like a Top Gun, where halfway through the movie, nobody's died yet. You're showing me the same movie. I expected one of the students to die. Mm-hmm. Right, and that would be what it was.
A consequence, dying,
yeah, that would be like something happened and there's a consequence of some kind, and then that helps kind of grow them to get either together or as a bonding or just whatever. But like one of them to have Iceman die is like, to me, the emotional impact then is only felt by arguably half the audience. If you've seen the first movie, this means something. If you haven't, it means less than nothing. Right, because he's
like Rocket
just a
said,
picture.
Is Iceman dead? Is he
exactly.
dead now?
He's dead just now? A picture on the wall, right? So he has no. So if you haven't seen the first one, then that moment, and even all the attention they paid to it. I mean, honestly, I almost ask you. I want to ask your son, hey, so when they were at the funeral, were you then confused of why are we spending so much time on this picture on the wall? Like why is he getting all this much screen time? And so I that part it was odd to me that that you were throwing calling back, but then not making the consequence more direct to the mission at hand. Mm-hmm. Like analogous to, and less compared to the first one, fair or unfair, analogous to when Goose dies, that is impactful for all of our main characters at hand, where this death is really only impactful to Maverick.
Because he immediately gets fired. Like they're immediately like, well, he dead. Out you go, fly boy. Like
deuces.
Yeah.
Right. Then he has to. Then he has to steal.
Didn't he say like John Hamm says like I what a day for you. So sorry. Take all the time you need. You are fired.
Well, I think that he fired him as a second choice. I think what John Hamm was hoping he would say was, "Yeah, I need some time and I gotta go." And since he didn't, he was like, "Oh no,
you're fine." That's what it felt like to me.
You're not allowed.
Yeah. You need some time. You need to go. So then he steals the second plane of the movie, and then does the gift, and then imbues his.
Wouldn't he need 30 or 40 people, just like the first time he stole the plane, to steal that other plane? They're like, oh, we don't have you on the mission log, sir.
But they do have. He has Hondo, right? And Hondo was kind of in Team Maverick, and he would, he was the guy. He could rally the airmen to get that plane in the air. I think it's interesting that this movie, like, and I'm bringing this up now. Normally, I would say this in the after show, but Brian has made a comment that I think is really important about the way this movie is a little bit hand wavy to grief and the way PTSD is handled, and we get a scene where Rooster and Maverick have a confrontation after the two folks are shot down, or they crash a plane, but they're okay. They just need to be in observation for a day, and then they're fine. And you think there's going to be a scene, some sort of reconciliation around, the grief that Rooster has because his dad died in a similar vein. Right? Like there's some sort of thing that you want confrontation. And instead, it's just about how Maverick has pulled his papers and cost him 4 years of his career. You know what, man? You're still here. Like, you're still one of the best. You still feel the need for speed. Like, come on, you're fine. Like, that felt like such a lightweight way to handle what was really hard in this movie. Yeah. And to Ocean's point, not killing a character in the act of doing the thing they're doing lessens the stakes and the ability for us to have a conversation about the way the movie handles grief and PTSD in the first place. Brian's point, in the first movie, Maverick goes to Top Gun because he's number one, because the number one basically has PTSD and drops out, right? This was in the opening shot. He has to go be on the wing to bring his buddy home. And Maverick becomes the hero at the end after his love interest and everyone else tells him to get in the plane, finish school, and forget his own PTSD after Goose dies. Ugly 80s attitude on mental health. This movie does a bit better in that area with Phoenix. And I would heavy up on a bit better because it's not really much better. Like there's no real sense that anybody gets a chance to handle the hard stuff. They just wave it away and get back in the cockpit. And to do that, literally go steal a plane, tossed off as heroism.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess I don't remember Phoenix having any PTSD. Like
not her. But Rooster and Maverick.
Yes.
Right.
Okay. Yeah.
They're the ones who they're the vessels of grief that we have to like use to understand what these characters are going through. They're the ones that had an opportunity to teach us something through the process of how hard this is and how Maverick has matured and how he had to do some work. And, I know we show up for this movie for the planes, and it's pretty lightweight on the other stuff, but this movie sets up that it's trying to do something maybe a little bit different, and I think it's a little bit light.
Yeah, so. I would agree that it is a bit light in terms of any type of growth. I just left feeling that it's the same. Like Maverick didn't grow. It's the same in the 30 years between. He didn't grow at the end of this movie either. He's the same.
Yeah.
Well, I think that after this, like, he will not stand in the way of Rooster being the next guy, and he'll be a better pilot in the end than Maverick was, because he'll have the gusto of Maverick, but the responsibility of like learning what he's learned, right? So he'll be the next generation of fighter pilot who like has that gut instinct, but still has like a sort of responsibility to the people around him and doesn't want to risk his friends, so I could see another iteration of this movie where Pete is finally retired and Rooster is out there being in charge of even younger pilots. No, Ocean
see you in 30 years.
Again, we've been watching different movies. Rooster wasn't.
It's the mom in me. I just want everyone to.
He wasn't a good enough pilot. Hangman said it. He is not ready for this mission, and I'm right because he was right. To me, I think everything you're describing is more of what I view with Hangman, where he had the bravado of Maverick and the crazy, willing to fly, crazy stuff and everything, but also the skill set of Iceman to be able to then do and accomplish those things you have moving forward. And I think that, in a sense, his character grew to care about other people where he previously had not. At least that's how I felt at the end. Whereas with Rooster and Maverick both, I felt that they always cared about people and each other. They just were having a hard time getting through the fact that they were at loggerheads about what had happened early on in his career, and but the fact that Hangman didn't leave him hanging out, didn't leave him hanging to dry, whatever it was at the end, didn't leave him hanging at the end. I felt that he was more of he grew to where he actually said, okay, maybe other people matter too, and I'm not the only person in the universe that does matter. And I think that he has the skill set, and ability, and all that other stuff that he would then move on. Where Rooster would just be, a better version of himself. He was just himself. He was just as good as he was before.
I think you're underplaying Rooster. I think the whole point of the story is that Maverick had to come into Rooster's life directly and push him to take on that crazy side of himself. Like maybe Hangman was already there, that combination of Iceman, and he already had that, but Rooster had it unlocked. Like that's Rooster's character arc. Like, yeah, you slow rolled your way through Naval Aviator School, and now you're here, and now I'm picking you to do this job, and now when it counts, I need you to step up and unlock the need, your actual personal need for speed. And he did. In the canyon run.
Well, and that's his Luke Skywalker moment.
Yeah.
So use the Force.
Exactly.
Except his, and his dad did die in a plane. So I could see him having a cautious Obi-Wan,
Then why would you want your entire career to be, I'm going to get up and over a plane?
He's full. Look, we contain multitudes, Ocean.
He's in a plane in the Navy. You don't, there's lots of other jobs that are just boats. In the Navy. You don't have to get into a plane.
As Tom Cruise says, I land on boats. I do not sail.
Exactly. Yeah. So, and so it's like, no, I guess I don't, to me, that felt a little weird and hollow to me, because to get to where this character has to get to, you're dealing with a very smart, intelligent person, and they've made smart, intelligent decisions. They've worked really hard to get to this point, and then to act like, okay, well, he's still dealing with I guess there is the whole, you're still dealing with the trauma of your dad dying in a plane, but to have that affect your flying is a weird thing to do, because you are smart, you're capable, you could have done a million other things. You didn't have to become a pilot.
He was just being careful, though. Like he got to the target. He just got there slower.
He was the cautious one.
He was the one who did it, but he did it the best. He didn't die.
Right.
He was overly cautious and didn't trust his own force powers yet. So he needed to trust that the force was living
force was
with
strong in him.
Strong with him.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Strong as a small pony.
So that's it. That's the whole movie.
So given that the bar you set earlier, Krissy, did this movie, would it fall below, meet, or exceed your expectations?
It exceeded my expectations, number one, by being a movie. So that right off the bat exceeded my expectations. Two, it at least cleared the bar of not all of the masculinity was toxic. It had at least one woman, at least some people of color, and at least one character who seemed like he wasn't that toxic bully. And it got me in the feels. It got me in the nostalgia of loving the first movie, as problematic as it is. I cried. I laughed. I cheered. It did it for me.
Yeah, I mean, it worked for me. I think it was it was just too much of the same in so many ways that in terms of just leveling up the entire movie, it was just Top Gun Redux. And then there was the flying stuff, which hit me so hard in all of the right ways every time. I just loved being in the cockpit with these people, and I love what they did for just straight up action filmmaking. It is beautiful innovation, and I can't wait to see kind of what comes next as a result of the effort that they put into this movie. I think it was extraordinary to watch, and this is a movie for movie theater people. When they say you got to see this in the theater, I don't agree with that very often. I love my home setup a lot, and it's very comfortable, and there are bathrooms, and I can pause it, and it's like great in so many ways. But this movie is it's just better on the biggest screen you can find. It really, this is one of the candidates for that. So,
yes.
That's
so
it.
Did it meet, exceed, or fall below what you expected?
I think it met what I expected. It met what I expected because it so far exceeded the flight stuff, even though it underperformed in everything else.
Okay.
But it did give us Tom Cruise aging. We didn't really say that. This movie shows Tom Cruise looking older than in any movie I've ever seen him look older in. He's unshaven in many places. Like, he just looks kind of scruffy with a little bit of wrinkliness to him, and that suits him. He is also short.
Yes.
You'll notice when he is nose to nose with Miles Teller, he's looking straight up at Miles Teller. And normally Tom Cruise is apple boxes all the way, as far as I understand it. Like, they played him as a human being. And I think that is actually a leveling up for me with this movie. I really liked it. It felt like a human hero in many natural ways that I thought was really satisfying.
Yeah. I found for me that it was interesting when I thought about this, the question that I asked at the end of all these podcasts about whether or not it, does it meet or exceed your own expectations. I found this movie to be interesting to me in that the movie's entertaining. You're 100% right. See this in theaters. It's the way to go. The bigger, the louder, the better, right? For everything they've done. And I did enjoy this movie, but it fell very much below my expectations. It wasn't as good as, and maybe it's, and I don't even know if this is a fair criticism or not. Like, maybe it's below what I expected, and maybe it's below the movie I had in my head. I don't know exactly yet. Like a great way to really kind of, a great way to describe all this. But I found that, in the simplest of sense is, this is a good movie. I recommend people see it. It is very entertaining, but it was below what I expected to see in the theaters. And so I found it interesting when I was looking at this question that I pose all the time, that I would ever have a movie that I felt that way about, because that in no way am I wanting to say this is a bad movie, because it is not a bad movie. It is a good movie.
And you've also seen it twice, right? Both of you
have seen it twice. Yes, I've seen it twice in theaters.
Yeah, yes, I only just saw it today, so as we're recording this, I've only just seen it once. But I think what's interesting about this whole conversation over the last hour and a half is that it feels like you have been much more bullish on the film writ large than maybe you are, mostly because you've been in a defensive position from me and Krissy the entire time. And so
we just saw different movies.
We just saw different movies. All right.
I saw an Applebee's commercial. Did you guys not?
I'm so hungry.
We're on Letterboxd. True Story FM's family of film podcasts are all part of the Next Reels HQ page. Letterboxd is a great way to track movies you see, write your own reviews, and be part of a larger community of film lovers like yourself. Sign up for your own account today, and if you upgrade to a pro or patron account, use the discount code NEXTREEL at checkout and save 20%. This works for renewals as well. So, Pete.
Oh, I get to. You're gonna make me go first?
Yes, Pete. What is out of 5 stars? And you're gonna start off. You're gonna set the bar for the rest of us to either go over or below. How would you rate this movie?
This was extraordinarily difficult for me, and I don't know that I've completely landed. Part of my challenge is self-inflicted because I'm now Pete, no half stars, right? And that's what's on my helmet is no half stars. That's my call sign. Yeah, no half stars. And because I think this is a movie that might need a little bit more of the gradient approach to rating. There's a lot of just the production stuff that I love about this movie, and I think that elevates it. If not for the plain stuff, it would be a 3-star, but I think it's going to end up for me a 4-star and a heart. I was exhausted at the end of this movie because of just the experience of watching it. It was fun. Will it hold up at 4 stars on rewatch over months and years? I don't know, but I had a ball right now.
Okay. 4 stars and a heart. Got it, Krissy. Is it equally as good for you?
No, I would say 3 stars and a heart. But for the reason Pete mentioned is that, like, I don't think I'll ever want to see this movie again. Like, if it's on, I might watch it, but I'm not going to be like, oh, you know what we should put on? Top Gun Maverick. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Like, it was great. I enjoyed it. Now I can live the rest of my life without it.
Wow. Well, I find that I'm going to agree with you, Krissy, although I wanted to do a half stars, but I feel that Pete has shamed me.
Yeah.
Into
I kind of feel like I was also going to give it a half star.
I was going to give it an extra half star, but I'm going to go, nope, it is a 3 stars and a heart. I agree with you in that from the rating point that you gave it. However, especially for me with the heart is always like would I want to watch it again? This is kind of my own personal, since there's no rules about whether or not it has a heart. To me, that's what I just do, which is what I watch it again. And I find that I will watch this again. I will. There's a possibility. I have some family members that still haven't seen it, so there's a possibility I'm going to see this again in the theaters. But I will definitely watch this again. I think that there's a lot of entertainment here. The airplane sequences are just amazing. Now, when I say I'm going to watch it again, am I going to sit down and watch it from beginning to end again? Maybe not, but I am going to jump to those plane scenes.
Yeah, for sure. And show up 4 or 5 minutes late. You're going to be fine.
Well, no, you need to be there at the very beginning because that's when you're being introduced. That's the on-ramp to the highway. To the danger zone.
Oh, please.
That's what it is. That's what it is. It's the on-ramp to
it's roadkill on the highway to the danger zone. It is. It's carcasses.
It is an amazing sequence. Yeah. That's get up out of your seat, get pumped up, and I'm getting ready for the show.
Oh, man. It's check your phone. Check your phones, everybody. Instagram is buzzing. You got 5 minutes.
No, you need to keep your eyes glued and your ears peeled. Because Kenny Loggins has got something for you.
Kenny Loggins.
All right. Well, Krissy and Pete, thank you both so much for joining me tonight to talk about Top Gun Maverick or an Applebee's commercial or Top Gun Maverick, because I think the theme of this discussion has been we've seen 2 different movies.
Yeah.
So Krissy, what is coming up for you next in your podcasting world?
Well, we just this week we have an episode on Terminator coming out. The Most Excellent 80s Movies podcast is reviewing Terminator with special guest Ocean Murff. Maybe you've heard of him. So that's really exciting and fun. We also did an episode on Weird Science, which is coming out soon, and lots of other 80s. We've already done Top Gun, so that's already out of the bag. So listen to that episode and yell at me about it later.
All right, Pete, what's coming up with you?
We're wrapping up. We're heading into our July hiatus on the next reel, and so we're wrapping up through the month of June with our 90s comedy series. And I'll just the movies we're talking about for June: Buffy the Vampire Slayer, Clueless, The Last Supper, and Billy Madison. It's an eclectic group of 90s comedies, but I'm here for it. And next season, all I can say is, if you haven't liked our Mads Mikkelsen series, if you haven't enjoyed the smaller fare that we've been doing over the last year, this year we're going big, starting in August. I mean, so big. So big. That's all I'm going to say.
Can't wait for Buffy.
Series is coming out soon.
Again, thank you both for joining me, and thank you everybody for listening to this episode of The Film Board. And coming up next month, our next episode, Lightyear.
A year of work for a 4-minute flight. Isn't that something?
We're all ready if you are, sir.
Well, let's go find out if this...
We got a breach in the perimeter.
Thank you. Buzz Lightyear mission log. After a full year of being marooned on this planet, our first test flight is a go. Let's get everyone home.
Good luck, Captain. We're all counting on you.
Roger that.
Buzz. I am Socks, your personal companion robot.
We're being pursued by just a massive robot.
That was utterly terrifying, and I regret having joined you. Buzz!
Lightyear!
Let all the children boogie.
I can provide sleep sounds if you like. I have several options. Summer night, ocean paradise, whale calls.
No. White noise is fine.
Very well.
Good night, Socks.
Good night, Buzz.